Hanse pita pan sikason egwa kawapaga maska gutinia. Negihewag Pat egwa Matilda Auger kisikasawag asay nagataskiwag. Egwa nuhkumpan Adelaide Cardinal kisikaso nimusumpan wiya kisikaso George Gallian. Egwa gutauche nzapanag nzapan nuhkum igisikaso Mary Louise Machimutao. Egwa nimusumpan nzapan Louis Cardinal kisikaso. Nihiyaw niya magahasche nahkawino nimusong gihwitamag igwayo. So when we introduce ourselves in Cree, or when Indigenous people introduce themselves, we don't just say our name. We say our name, plus we tell where we're from, what land we came from. And then we also name our relatives, our line of parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents. And then we also say what nation we're from, or language group. And we might even have a story that goes with that. Perhaps how we came to be on that land and how we're connected to that land. So I'm going to introduce myself again, step by step, so that you can learn how to do this introduction for yourselves. Okay, so first I'm going to start by introducing my name. Pitapan Netsikason. So you say your name first, and then you say, that is my name. So I would say, like, if I'm doing it in English, I would say, Darlene is my name, like that. So it's not like my name is Darlene. Cree is kind of the other way, similar to French. So let's try this again, okay? So say your name, and then Netsikason, okay? Darlene Netsikason. Darlene Netsikason. Good, good. Okay, and now we're gonna say where we're from. Kawapagamaskag Uchtinia. Wabaska is where I'm from. Okay, so first you say the name of your community where you're from. It may not be where you live right now. Okay, so it's where you came from, where you were born, and perhaps where you were raised. Sometimes we're born in one place, and then we live here, and then we live there, and then we move over here, and we move everywhere. And so what you want to do is you want to introduce the land where your family originated. Okay? So what I said was, Kawapagamaskag Uchtinia. So this is the way that I was taught to say my community in my Cree language. Wabaska is the term that's on the map, but it's actually a Cree word that means white. Wapskow. Wapskow is white. And so there's a story about this. And the story is that when the people first came to settle there, the Cree people, they looked at the land, and there's a lot of hills around our community, big hills. In fact, we call them mountains. But they're big hills, and when the people looked from the top of the hills down onto the valley of the land. What they saw was that the land looked white because there is a river running through the land, and on the river they saw these white caps. And in the grassy fields, they saw these little white flowers growing everywhere. And so from a distance, when they looked down at the land, it looked white. Yeah. So you introduce your land, your people's land, where they originated from. So let's try this. Okay, so think about the name of where you were born to, or maybe where your grandparents were born, and you say that name. So I'm gonna do it in English. Wabasca is where I'm from, okay? So in Cree, Gawapagamaskag Ohje Nia. So the word Ohje is from, Nia is me, Nia, okay? So Ohje Nia, from me. So it's where I'm from, okay? Let's do it again. Wabasca Ohje Nia. Okay, again. Wabasca Ohje Nia. Good. Very good. Okay, so now we move on to who we are related to. Because when people meet us, they want to know where we're from, and they want to know who we're related to. So kinship is very, very important in our communities. And this is because of intermarriages. So traditionally, because we were clans, we had clan systems, we did not marry within our clans. We did not have children with the same clan member. So we had to know who we were related to. And there's lots of jokes actually that we tell about this. But it's so important that we know right from a very young age who our relatives are. So we do not intermarry. We do not have children with people who we are related to. And so now we want to introduce our relatives. And we start with our parents. Nigi hegwag, nigi he hegwag, nigi he hegwag. My parents are, so, and then you say their names, or you can say their names. You can say your mom first and then your dad. So you always do your mom first because we were originally matriarchal societies. We were not patriarchal societies. That came after colonization. So let's introduce our mother, okay? My mother's name was Matilda. Yeah, so I would say Matilda Auger Negawi. Matilda Auger Negawi. Now, if my mom has already passed away, has gone back home to spirit world, then I would say Negawi Pan. Negawi Pan. So Pan suffix tells us that that person has passed away. So I would say Matilda Auger Negawi Pan. Okay, so let's try this together. Introduce your mother. Matilda Auger Negawi Pan. Again. Matilda Auger Negawi Pan. Good, good. Okay, now let's introduce our father. And so it's the same thing. You say the name first. My father's name was Patrick Auger, and he has also passed on and went back home to spirit world. So I would say Noch dawi pan. So the way you say father is Noch dawi, Noch dawi. And if they've passed on, you say Noch dawi pan, Noch dawi pan. Okay, let's try this. Patrick Auger Noch dawi pan. Okay, again. Patrick Auger Noch dawi pan. Good, good, okay. Now let's carry on. We're going to introduce our grandparents now, okay? So your grandmother is my grandmother, Nohkum. My grandmother is Nohkum. Your grandmother is Guhkum. Okay? So my grandmother, Nohkum. Now my grandmother is also back home in spirit world, so I'm going to say Nohkum pan. Nohkum pan. All right? So my grandmother's name was Adelaide Cardinal. Okay? So I'm going to say Adelaide Cardinal Nohkum pan. Adelaide Cardinal Nohkum pan. Okay? Did you try that? Let's try again. Adelaide Cardinal Nohkum pan. Good, good. Okay, let's introduce our grandfather. Now again, my grandfather's passed away, so I'm going to say Nimosum pan. So my grandfather is Nimosum. Nimosum. Your grandfather is Kimosum. But when you're introducing your grandfather, you'd say Nemosum. Okay? So let's do this. George Galian Nemosum pan. George Galian Nemosum pan. Okay, let's try this together. My grandfather is, okay? George Galian Nemosum pan. Good. Okay, now we're going to introduce our great grandparents. Your great grandmother and your great grandfather have the same Cree term. And it's really interesting because this is also the same term for your great grandchild. Yes. So the word is Japan. Japan. And that word is actually comes from the word Niskutapan. And that means something that I am pulling. So you pull your great-grandchildren, and you also pull your great-grandparents. They are in your being. So in our being, we carry all the time 7 generations. And if we are lucky, we could even carry 8 or 9. Let me explain this to you after we introduce our great-grandparents, okay? So I would say my great-grandparents, because it's all one word, so I would say Nitsapanag. Nitsapanag. Or if they have passed on to spirit world already, you would say Nitsapanpanag. Nitsapanpanag. Okay, so I'm going to introduce my great-grandparents now. Mary Louise Matsumotao Egwa. Louis Cardinal Nitsapanpanag. Okay, so you say your great-grandparents' names. You say your grandmother first and then your grandfather. Okay, let's try this. Mary Louise Matsumotao Egwa Louis Cardinal Netzapan Panag. Okay, try it with me. Mary Louise Matsimotao Egwa Louis Cardinal Netzapan Panag. And then you want to introduce your nation. Okay, so I would say, because I'm Cree, and I also recognize my Soto side, I would say, Nihiao Nia. So Nia is me again, right? Nihiao is Cree. So Nihiao Nia, Egwa Aste Nakawino. So I said, I am Cree, and I'm also Soto. So Nihiao Nia, Egwa Aste Nakawino. So let's try this, okay? I'm gonna introduce your nation. Nihiao Nia. Or if you're Soto, you'd say, Nakawino Nia. Good. Okay. So going back to the 7 generations, on our crown, which is those who came before us, sit our grandparents, first our parents, then our grandparents, and our great-grandparents. And if we're lucky to know our great-great-grandparents in our lifetime, then we could carry 4 generations above us. And then here, where our belly button is, from where we introduce ourselves and our spirit selves, is our generation. So we carry that generation here in our belly button. And then from where we give birth to our children, we carry our children and our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, and if we're lucky, we could also carry our great-great-grandchildren. And when I say carry, what I mean is we have relationship with them. So for example, in the generations that I carry, I knew my great-grandmother. She lived to be 102 years old. And so when I was just a little girl, I remember her. I had a relationship with her. And so I carry above me my parents, my grandparents, my great-great-grandparents. So I have 3 generations above me. And then I carry myself, my own generation, and my spirit self. So that's 4. And then I have my children. So that's 5 generations that I carry with me. I don't yet have grandchildren, and I don't yet have great-grandchildren, except in our families, we do have grandchildren. If my siblings have grandchildren, they also become mine. So actually, I have 20 grandchildren. Yeah. So I carry currently 6 generations with me. And so that is how we introduce ourselves. Thank you.